First, I would like to say that I read your book, House of God, while I was in medical school. And during my rotations, many physicians, many smart and hardworking physicians I've worked with at multiple hospital sites across Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey would at times quote from your book directly. One specific quote has always stuck with me. The delivery of medical care is to do as much nothing as possible. Even decades after, and still to this day, your book and your own philosophy has impacted and influenced thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of physicians and other medical personnel. I believe I speak for all physicians to thank you for your contributions to today's shaping of medicine.
Well, I'm delighted that you remembered law number 13, the delivery of medical care is to do as much nothing as possible, because that's the most profound and important law that comes out of the book. And I remember, this is 40 years ago now. It's the 40th anniversary year now of the House of God, if you can imagine that. And it sells more now than ever. It's just all over now, everywhere in the world. But when I came to typing that last law, I typed, the delivery of medical care is to do nothing. And then I stopped myself and I said, hey, wait a second. That's not right. I'm more hopeful than that. And I said, okay, and my fingers of their own accord just wrote out, the delivery of medical care is to do as much nothing as possible, which is really interesting in retrospect. And it was like, it wasn't coming from me, it was coming from the divinity or something, you can't think about that. It just came out of my fingers. And I'm so glad you said that. I'm just absolutely astonished still now at at what this book did, because I just started writing it as a catharsis of the worst year of my life. The thing that gets me going as a writer comes from my experience in being in the 60s. In the 60s, that's how old I am. In the 60s, I was in college, and we had the idea, if we saw an injustice and got together and worked at it, we could make things better, right? We were in resistance to two things at that time: the Vietnam War and the civil rights movement, right? And because we stuck together and did this, we helped put the civil rights laws on the books, and we stopped the Vietnam War. And so I write for two reasons. One is to draw attention to injustice. When I get a whole lot of these, hey, wait a second moments, this isn't right, I say, oh, all right, somebody's got to write about this. It looks like it has to be me. So the first thing is to draw attention to injustice in resistance to that injustice. And the second thing is really at the heart of the House of God and the new novel, everything I write, everything I go around speaking about, the danger of isolation and the healing power of good connection. What's good connection? Good connection is mutual connection. If it ain't mutual, it ain't that good. Both people in the connection have to feel, like they're heard and like it's important. So that's sort of a backdrop looking back at the House of God. And when we went into the hospital, the House of God, most of us were products of the 60s, and we were very idealistic. We didn't even take the black bags that these pharmaceutical companies handed to you, We didn't want to be part of any of that. And as soon as we got into the hospital, we realized there was a conflict between the sort of the dogma of the hierarchical system and the call of the human heart. And that's what got us going. And I've never stopped doing that in all the other books and things I've written. And especially now, Man's Fourth Best Hospital, which I'd love to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, your message is very powerful. The audience we have here at ReGenMed101 is quite large. We span not only all of the United States, but also overseas. We have a large listener population in the EU, Asia, and recently Australia. I've seen a lot of social media posts, including Instagram and Facebook, regarding a huge announcement for you. First, I want to ask, who's managing your social media presence? Because it seems like you have a hand in technology and social media. You have your hand in writing books. This is a pretty large undertaking, I presume.
Oh, I love you. I love you. I am pretty illiterate. I have, as long as we're filming, you know what I have?
What do you have?
Can you see it?
Wow, that okay,
A flip
and
phone. A flip phone. The
yep, the
reason
audience. Just so you know, that is a flip phone from the, I'm guessing, late '90s.
I got this flip phone in 1994, and it's never broken.
The best.
So the reason that I have a flip phone is because I have a kind of an addictive personality. If I had an iPhone, I would never write another novel. I just couldn't concentrate. Anyway, I am really bad at tech. I really am. I mean, I have a computer. I write on the computer, but I'm really bad at it because I stay away from it. Even I have a PhD in neuroscience. I'm not a dope in these things. But Dr. Baruch Kim, who offered to help me put up the website, which, as you know, is mansfourthbesthospital.com. He just stepped up and he made the website and he's arranging all of this stuff. And I'm just so happy about it. The other thing that's really interesting historically, I mean, I could talk for days about all this, but I'll try to be brief. The people that hated me when the book came out all those years ago now are kind of liking me. And the big deal that happened last December when NYU Medical School had a symposium on the 40th anniversary of the House of God, and we had a panel with 5 of the old guys who are interns and me and my wife on the making of the House of God. There's a great video on the website. JAMA hated me when the book came out, and all of a sudden they're doing all these wonderful things. And in fact, it looks like for the first time ever in JAMA, they're going to publish a piece of fiction. They're going to publish a whole chapter of the new novel, Man's Fourth Best Hospital. But if you love the House of God, I would say go to the Man's Fourth website and look at the video, the making of the House of God. It is fantastic. So, I mean, I'm very glad you're saying we're getting the word out because, this new novel, Man's Fourth Best Hospital, I want to be like the House of God. I want it to be a novel of resistance against the horrific situation that we doctors and patients and nurses, et cetera, healthcare workers, I want it to be a call for action in resistance to get us out of this just being subsidiary to the big forces in medicine that have nothing to do with healthcare. The book starts, Man's Fourth Hospital starts with the same narrator, Roy G. Bash, right? And his now wife, it's a while later, his wife, Barry, and he's looking back and he says, I have to write this book. I'm called to write this novel as a novel of resistance, really. But I'm called to write this novel because I'm looking back at a time when medicine could either go one way or the other, either toward more humane care or toward money and screens. That means the electronic medical record. Either money and screens, a humane thing, or either money or screens, which means money and money, right? Because the screens are billing machines. We all know that. The public doesn't know that. We all know that. They're cash registers, right? The biggest problem that happened when Obama created this initiative on making digital data more available, which was a good idea, right? That was a great idea to get the data to be more understandable and where you could send it different places. But then somehow the private insurance industry sort of got its hands into it, into the machine, and they said, we are going to tie billing to data. There's no reason for that, but and as you know, being a doctor, this is hell. This is hell. I mean, you've heard of burnout, etc. Doctors are retiring. 3 doctors a day commit suicide now. It used to be one doctor a day. So this book really is takes on what's happening right now to doctors, patients, nurses, etc. The House of God was for doctors mainly because it was about medical training, and it really helped improve the abuses. This book is not just about doctors, it's about everybody because everybody's a patient, including doctors. And it's about changing this situation. And you know, all the academic papers in the world, like about burnout or policy, can't really have this big effect is if you hit the audience, that is doctors and patients, et cetera. If you hit the person in the heart and in the gut, that's what makes people stand up. That's why the House of God 40 years later sells more than ever. And so I also, the problem, I always wanted to write a sequel, but I was out of medicine. I had been a psychiatrist for a while, but now I'm in recovery from being a psychiatrist. I was out of it. And I was writing novels. I've written about 5 or 6 novels and a play called Bill W. and Dr. Bob about Alcoholics Anonymous. But one day, 5 years ago, I got a call from NYU Medical School. And they said, hey, do you want to be a professor of medicine in medical humanities at NYU Medical School? I said, why? What? You know, I'm happy. Why? And they said, well, we want you to teach. And I said, well, what do you want me to teach? And they said, dummy, we want you to teach the House of God. And you have to understand, Harvard hated me for the House of God. And NYU loved me for the House. So I've been teaching there for 5 years. A seminar to students of 6 sessions, just going through the book, and it's as powerful and funny and sexy as before. And so all of a sudden, I was back in modern medicine again. Just boom, there I was, and I noticed all of the incredible things that can be done. So, putting in a valve through a vein, a aortic valve, curing blood cancers, it's incredible. But the first time I was on the wards, going on rounds, I saw not only the terrific things, but I saw, the 2 things that really got me. And one of them was the presence of money and how much pressure the doctors were on to bill for money, and also what was going on with all these screens, and how, people just roll down the hallway with the screens on just going through. I don't even go into the patient's rooms, and then they run to their computers. And I all of a sudden said, hey, wait a second, hey, wait a second moments, somebody's got to write about this. And I guess it's me. Same thing happened. It's the same exact thing. Only this was broader. It wasn't just docs. It's people, all the people.
So it sounds like you are very influential. You have a unique perspective in all of medicine. Just being part of a new system, you see this. You see things that a lot of medical personnel do not see for years or even decades later. You're actually seeing something that is occurring, now, and is building up like a molehill turning into a mountain. And I wanted to bring it back to you specifically. I see a lot of momentum on social media, on the internet, specifically on your upcoming book titled "The Man's Fourth Best Hospital." What I would like to do is give you the entire floor to talk about specific passages or about the book itself, or just about the entire medical society in general. So I will leave it up to you, Dr. Samuel Shem, to enlighten us when it comes to the future and the face of medicine.
Good, good, very good. You should have a blog or something.
Well, and just so you know, so my Regen Med 101 podcast, I'm going to give you kind of insider information. Baruch Kim initially helped me start it. And what you're doing right now, and I thank you for being a part of the podcast. You are going to be changing, lives. I mean, you already are, but this is going to be hitting it at the heart of society of every state in the U.S., including European Union, Asia, and even Australia. I mean, I can even I'll send it to Baruch to show you. We have huge pockets of listeners, and they will hear your message. So let me bring it back to you, because obviously this is not about my podcast. This is all about you, Dr. Shem.
Yeah, well, this book is part, as I said, Man's Fourth Best Hospital is part of really trying to change things now at a really crucial time in medicine. There's no question. And, I'm old, I can't fight this fight. It's going to be up to people of your age. And I'm so glad that I'm on a show, where people know how to fix the computers when they break and stuff like that. But the story of the book, I think everybody is going to be happy to see. The fat man is back.
Yes, the fat man indeed.
He's back. He's very back. All that weight, and bubble. Huge organization, a $25 billion organization called Buddies, Buddies, was created to buy up and oversee a lot of the best medical schools, hospitals, especially the two main prestigious hospitals of man's best medical school, the man's first best at that point, and women's second best hospital. And what happened is, because of this huge money-making thing that was squashing the hospital started falling from number 1 down, and it fell all the way to number 4 in prestige and money, because they were being squeezed of money from the big corporation. And so they had to do something. And the fat man, it turns out, at the end of the House of God, you may remember, he went to Hollywood to do the Bowel Run of the Stars in gastroenterology, right? And so and one of them knows, but then he went to Silicon Valley, and he has now in phase 3 trials of his invention, which is a pill to help Gomers and other people to remember, to sort of get back their memory, okay? And so Man's Fourth Best Hospital calls up the fat man, and they said, because the fat man, he has what they need. He's rich and he has prestige, and that's what they need, because they're falling from 1 to 4. What a great problem to have, right? Anyway, and they're really pissed off at Man's Fourth Best, because third best is the House of God. They're rival, So the fat man says, okay, I'll help you out. He said, I have to have free reign. And they said, okay, you can do whatever you want to do. And he says, I want to run a public outpatient clinic leaning up against this huge hospital. And it's going to be called the future of the FMC, either the future of medicine thing or the Fat Man Clinic, FMC, either way. And he says, I want to do this public clinic to show how to put the human back in medicine. And so, from there on, so he rounds up 5 of the old interns: Roy, Eat My Dust Eddie, Chuck, Hyper Pooper and the Runt, and actually Barry, because Barry is now married to Roy and they have a little child. And he makes this clinic. And he's got, carte blanche. He can do whatever he wants. And so these, everybody join. And now, of course, he wants to have parity in men and women. And so he brings in some women as they go. But the interesting thing is that all of a sudden, these guys from the House of God are confronted with these two problems, that everything they do is for money, and they have to do it through screens. And like I said, they quickly realize that there's a war going on over the screen. On one side is doctors who are being forced by the hospital to bill as much as they can, right? As often as they can. And on the other side of the screen is an insurance employee whose job depends on spending the least, on paying the least. And as I say in the book, and this is where it gets to a broader look, this isn't just about medicine, this is a broader look. What I say in the book is this war across the screen is like every war. It's about money. Every war is about money when you really think about it. And Tolstoy said, I found this quote the other day, Tolstoy said, money is the new slavery. Really interesting that he said that. Money is the new slavery, and that's what we are. We're slaves to this system now. And so you can imagine what happens, and it has the same, it's the fat man's the star, and he's right in medicine now. And, he's interested not just in treating this incredible number of people that it's a public clinic. So, it's huge a mess, but he's also interested in reforming the system. As he says, when you're in a theater and someone falls down on stage, does the call go up, is there an insurance executive in the house? No, we're the workers. We do the work, right? Why are we being bossed around? And so in the middle of the book, this is one of my most favorite achievements in the book, because it was really hard to get my head around it. He does a lecture to the team, and even though he's really high tech, he does it on a blackboard with chalk. And he says, and the title is, and I hope this phrase gets into the lingo. The title of the talk is The 6 Rackets of American Healthcare. The 6 Rackets of American Healthcare. And he delineates them. And then the subtitle is 6 Rackets, Follow the Money, right? And it goes from the electronic medical record all the way down to hedge funds, because that's what's happening, and everything in between. And and then he talks about what to do about it, how we can change it, And I'll tell you that in the reviews that have happened so far in pre-publication, it's due out November 12th. And in the reviews, in all the people I talked to, I started giving some talks around. People are riveted by this because it's what's happening to us right now. It's right now. And I'll have some things in the press and stuff in the next few weeks before it comes out. Newsweek is actually going to take something. Actually, JAMA of all people, for the first time, is going to publish some fiction. I think it's going to be a whole chapter of the book, and that's going to be, just really, really wonderful. But what I really would like to come out of this is for us, doctors are very bad at banding together. Everybody it's emphasized that we have a strong, impermeable, solid self, right? And we don't join together to get what we want. And what I would love to see, and would put a lot of energy toward it as best I could, is we make an alliance between doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers, patients, and maybe even hospitals. Because what's going to happen within the next 5 years, we're going to have some kind of national healthcare system. It's almost inevitable, unless the whole country collapses. But
Right.
and at that time, when I talk to doctors, I said, but if it's single payer, I can't live on that on Medicare wages. I can't do it. And hospitals say, I can't live on that. Well, guess what? It's like anything in life. Something that looks like a bad thing can in fact be a good thing, because what could happen is at that time, when people are talking about what we should have, we get together in an alliance and we say, no, unless we get what we want, we're not going to work on this. We're not going to do this, because we have enormous power. There are a couple million people in healthcare. I don't know exactly how many, but nobody has ever said, we're not going to do this. The nurses have a union, a strong union, and I don't think they have ever lost something that they were either going to go on strike with or did go on strike with. I don't think they have ever lost it, because they're mostly women, and women get together and men are, oh no, I can do it myself, So that's what I hope would come out of this book. I don't know what you think about that.
This past year, I was at one of the NYU Grand Rounds where you spoke to us residents when I was a resident there at the time. And just so that the audience understands and kind of can picture this, because this is obviously a podcast, not a video cast. Dr. Shem is extremely lively, extremely entertaining. I remember him coming in with just one PowerPoint slide, and he engaged the audience for the entire hour plus. It was riveting. It was engaging. We had senior physicians, senior administrators also chiming in. This is a very powerful message that you are broadcasting to the general public and to really the entire medical system. I also remember you reading a very small part of your book. I was wondering if you could potentially do that for our audience as well. Dr. Shem has graciously offered to read an excerpt in his new book, Man's Fourth Best Hospital. Again, our audience here at ReGenMed101 is very thankful, and we'll now give you the floor. Go ahead, Dr. Shem.
Okay. I'm going to read two short pages. And one of them is what everybody, of course, knows about, the electronic medical record. And this is from the book. We doctors at the Fat Man Clinic had to attend a day-long orientation to heal man's fourth best electronic medical record, an hour-long video and workshop with a guy named Bob. The goal was, by gaming the HEAL code for any particular diagnosis and treatment, to max out money. In principle, we could max out with clicks in two ways. First was qualitative, choosing the worst diagnosis and the most treatment. Second was quantitative, clicking on as many different severe diagnoses requiring the most elaborate treatment for as long as possible. The terms he used were very strange. Bob made clear that the more expensive the diagnosis and treatment codes clicked, the more money the fourth best hospital made. And he warned us that the insurance industry is 24/7 trying just as hard to game us out of our gaming them for money. That's why, he said, we nicknamed our team Coders for Cash. We work out of a war room at an undisclosed location. We watch each of you for your choice of click codes from admission to discharge. Fiscally, doing procedures on patients makes the most money. Surgical procedures make the most money. Medical care makes the least, except for the diagnosis of sepsis, severe. After you click sepsis, the pop-ups ask mild, medium, or hot, severe. like at a Thai restaurant. But sepsis is by definition a life-threatening blood infection, always severe. Monetized compared to mild or medium, severe is a cash cow that wins hands down. We will dog you till the sun goes down. If you click sepsis, you always click severe, the code for cash. But then why, I said, do you have boxes for mild and medium at all? Camouflage, he said. For this fatal disease, we have no choice. And then he went on, and I've tuned out, but he came back and he said, it all boils down to earwax. He spoke passionately about how to squeeze the most money out of earwax. First, in a moving historical tour, he said, earwax is an untapped pool, rampant in our senior citizens, a cause of deafness. How many of you routinely earwax your patients? We took this as rhetorical and did not reply. He went on, the money in earwax flows by clicking the diagnosis in almost all patients and removing as much volume as you can. He showed on a big screen a stick figure of a doctor sitting at healing of earwax. You have to choose between two codes for earwax removal. 40773 is for just taking out a syringe and washing it out, reimbursed at $77.33. But 40774, using the metal scooper thingy to remove it, $182.57. The difference, $105.24. And doing both, $359.90. More than the sum of the parts. Multiply per person per year, millions. Guess which procedure for extraction and payment is max liquidity? Both. Do the right thing. The right thing for us of the Fat Man Clinic was to walk out. So, Chuck, I said, what'd you think of that? Man, it all went in one ear and out the other.
That is absolutely entertaining. And I'll be honest, the audience, when this book comes out, you said it was November 12th, was it?
Yeah.
I want every audience to at least get a chance to read this book. It is absolutely entertaining. It is also very enlightening to all of medical profession and also to the general public as well. So Dr. Shem has also graciously offered to read a second excerpt in his book, The Man's Fourth Best Hospital. Again, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Shem.
Okay. Your visit to your doctor has become satire. You walk in, lucky if you get eye contact, and sit across the desk. Your doctor is trapped, hunched behind a computer screen, back or shoulder to you. The doc asks a question, you answer, the keyboard goes click, click-de-click, faster and faster. On and on it goes, and you find yourself in the patient's dilemma. Do I keep talking or wait for a break in the action? Usually the next question. Is he or she still listening or not? The new definition of a good doctor, one who can contort his or her body to touch type while still making eye contact. As you keep waiting, two questions may enter your mind, and this is in the patient's mind. What is she or he doing? What you don't know is that your doctor is sitting there in front of that screen seething because he's forced to sit in front of a screen seething instead of what he wants to do, to talk and listen and be your doctor. He spends 60% of every workday, at least 6 hours in front of that screen. Family doctors spend an additional 3 hours at night at home during pajama time, digging out from under the pileup on the screen. This is the doctor's dilemma. Why is he or she doing this? The patient asks. You might think she's doing this because it will be better for your health care. It may not be. It may even be worse. Worse for your care and, for sure, worse for the care of your doctor. It's only better for the money, the healthcare industry. The machine, you see, was not primarily designed for care, but for billing, to make as much money as possible. We doctors are caught in this mess. We're not only treating the patient, we're treating the screen. And it's not that your doctor wants to turn his or her back on you. It's the healthcare industry that has turned its back on both you and your doctor.
That is extremely powerful, and the message is loud and clear. You know, as physicians, We want to have more face time with patients. We want to spend time, discussing diagnosis, treatment options. But you're right. There is a medium that kind of blocks us, and that is the computer screen. And you hit it right on the head. And we definitely thank you for reading that excerpt and also writing the book, Man's Fourth Best Hospital.
Well, it's my pleasure, and you're a terrific interviewer.
Baruch, are you there?
I'm here. 1 second. Oh yeah. I'm a little busy reading this book. I'm on page 176. I used to teach rapid reading to all of the ESL students.
4 months,
At this stage, I think the more the better, and the earlier the better, because we're approaching. It's like less than 2 months from now. Let's try and get the word out as much as possible to as many people as possible. From people from all around the world. And ReGenMed101.
All right. You guys are great, and I really like working with both of you.
So thank you. I'm very grateful that you're on this podcast. I think it's gonna be very influential for your book and your message.
Good. I got a little something to say to both of you, just in case you're not quite well acquainted with what I have over here, the laws of man's fourth best hospital. Learn your trade in the world. Isolation is deadly. Connection heals. Connection comes first. Use the we, W-E. It's not just what we do, it's what we do next. It's not that we do what we think we can get, it's what we dare to do together. Without healthcare workers, there's no healthcare. Squeeze the money out of the machines and speak of together. Pre-order right now.
Power to the docs.
You guys are great. Okay, I'm going to go visit with my wife.
All right, thank you so much.
Tell Jenny I said hi.
You're great.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great Americans.
Great American.